Alrighty, morning everyone, and welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel on another beautiful day. We are inside today, as if that wasn't obvious already, but I decided to do this video not in the shed where I usually do my videos, and also not at my other workshop because, well, I'm not there at the moment, but inside. Why is that a thing? Because it's very, very windy outside today and it rains a lot, and you can really hear that on camera even though we are inside the shed. The shed is not the most sturdy structure in the world, so it moves around quite a bit. So we are inside today. But that doesn't really matter because I wanted to talk about something with you today. And that's this. This is a transformer. As if that wasn't obvious already. But it's more than just that. This is actually my livelihood. With these little things, I make my money. Most of my money, matter of fact, because, well, YouTube doesn't pay me a single dime at this point because I don't really understand that, but I think it's because I don't have 1,000 subs. Whatever. But this is almost the entirety of my income. Transformers. How's that, you might ask? Well, these things are actually very valuable if you know how to take them apart efficiently. And that's what I want to talk with you, what I want to talk about with you today. And yeah, that is essentially how I make approximately $100 to $150 a day scrapping down transformers. That is obviously not something I do every day because it is extremely exhausting and also very physically demanding to do something like that. So I can only do this half a month at best, and you have already seen that on my channel multiple times. I've done multiple videos about me doing some scrap sessions where I'm actually working, where I actually do my work, and where I'm not just doing these like interesting entertainmentally related videos. And yeah, you've seen that before. I've done multiple videos about that, and that is what I do for a living. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know if you want to do stuff like that and how you can make some good money doing so. So the first and probably most important part, period, is how much copper is in the transformer that is in front of you and how much should you pay for that. That is the most important thing, really, like, period, that's it. If you know that, you can go out there and make money. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you, but that is it. So a transformer like this one, for example, looks like your general microwave transformer, but it is way smaller. And the problem with that is that you can't always tell how much copper is actually in them. This one, you would say it has a normal ratio of copper, which would be approximately 25% for a transformer of this kind. It doesn't, though. This one has approximately 15% copper in it, which makes it way less valuable than maybe something like this, for example, which this is a pretty big boy. This is the kind of transformer that is put into like stadium lights, stuff like that, a real big one, like I think it's like 1,500 watt, something like that. It's a real big one. It weighs approximately, I think, like 17, 18 kilos, something like that. I've not weighed it in quite some time, but it's a heavy, chunky boy. And this one actually does have 25% copper recovery. Not really. Yet again, it doesn't have that exact number. I think it has like 28, 29. I had a lot of those and I broke them down recently. I didn't make a video, unfortunately, because I had to do it pretty dang fast. But this is the kind of copper transformer that you would want to buy if you want to make a lot of money. Now, don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money with stuff like this. Let me put that away a bit because it's in the way. You can make a lot of money with this. You have to just take into consideration what you pay for it. So if you're paying like, I don't know, $1 a kilo for this, or like whatever, like 50 cents a pound, you're not gonna really make a lot of money on those. Why is that a thing? Well, these have way less copper recovery than these big ones. These big ones have approximately a value of, I would say, $2, maybe let's just say $1.5 a kilo, so like 80 cents a pound. I would say they have a value of approximately 80 cents a pound, but that is obviously my price, and your price might be way better, especially if you're based in the US. You generally have better prices over there because stuff doesn't really get shipped around a lot. It just stays on the continent and gets processed there. Here in Europe, that's not really the case. And over in Australia and stuff like that, absolutely not. At least not from what I've heard from other YouTubers. So yeah, that's a thing. Even though you can still get way better prices for I think like wire or something like that over in Australia, but that's because my wire price is just exceptionally bad. So that's not like generally Europe is something in between, and the US is kind of like the top of scrap value prices, but doesn't really matter anyways. Let's just say it's worth like $1 a pound on the high end, okay? And you should not buy it for more than 50 cents a pound. Why not? Well, it's pretty easy to answer that question. It is very exhausting to scrap those down over a longer period of time. They are very heavy. You have to move them around quite a bit. You know, you can make a lot of money doing that, and I definitely have, well, maybe not a lot, but enough, I would say. For me, definitely enough. And you have to just take into consideration that you have to pay the right amount of money for them. As I said, that would probably be approximately 50 cents a pound, or maybe like $1 a kilo. Yeah, whatever currency you might be in, just put it in there. So that is definitely something you can make some good money with that. You can also make some good money with these, but I would not go above actually half of this one because it's almost half the copper recovery. So I would just take half of this value, so maybe like 25 cents a pound, and pay that for this stuff. Why is that a thing? Well, obviously you have to put a lot of effort into those. Actually more effort than you have to put into these big ones. Why is that a thing? Because these are put into layers. They are stacked up in layers, and you cannot crack them with a hammer. With these ones, you can just take this weld. I'm going to show that to you. Give me 1 second. There we go. This is a weld. It's a weld seam. This is not interwoven. These are not interwoven steel plates. You can take a hammer and hit this side, and it's going to just shear off, and you can just get the copper out with like whatever, also a hammer or something else that you can build, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But that is something that you can make some really good, easy money with. It's still very physically demanding, but it doesn't take a lot of time. This, however, is different. You have to cut one of those sides, either this one or this one, and you have to cut it flush to the steel. You can't just cut it in the middle and then somehow pry it out there. It's not worth the effort. Let me tell you, you're gonna use so much more time, unless, of course, that's what I obviously have to say, unless you've got some sort of hydraulic device that then grips it on this side and pulls it out. Stuff like that exists. That is a really good setup. 99.9% of people scrapping don't have that, including me. I don't have that. I would love to have it, but I don't. So what 99% of people should do is cut both of these ends flush. You can do that with an angle grinder that works, but it uses blades. Unless you're using like a blade for cutting through like rock and stuff like that. I use that sometimes, but you know, it creates dust, it creates noise. It's also not the fastest way of doing it. The fastest way, believe it or not, is to take a wood chisel to it. I've figured that out. I'm not even kidding you, a wood chisel is the fastest way. If you got a really good, really sharp one, that's the thing. Once it gets dull, it's way slower than an angle grinder. So you have to take that into consideration. Can you keep it sharp enough to cut better than an angle grinder for a very long amount of time? For most people, the answer to that is probably no. So I would say your best bet, anyway, is to go with an angle grinder. There are some discs for cutting copper out there. I would take one of those, but you obviously can't take something that has like teeth on it, because these things, you're gonna get very close to them, and if you catch them, you can rip them off and stick them in your arm. So you really don't want to do that. So use a smooth blade for cutting through soft metals, and you're gonna be fine. You can do that basically for hours on end because it's not very exhausting. After that, put it somewhere where you can just beat it through with a piece of steel, or I don't know, maybe you can also use a pencil. I don't really care. Everything would work, okay? So this is how you scrap those. Really easy process. You just have to keep track of what you pay for them. If you pay too much, you're not going to make any money. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter how efficient your process is. If you pay too much for them, your money is gone. However, there's one really good thing about that. I have never, ever, like in my entire career of scrapping, have I ever seen a scrapyard that pays you enough for transformers like this big one, not for this small one, definitely, that is possible, especially at some, I think Dan the Scrapper told me like recently that they get a pretty good price for transformers in Australia, so that's cool, I guess. It's like, I think $1 Australian, something like that, which is like, I think 70 cents here. And I only get 40 cents, so that's obviously way better, it's almost double. But still, this is worth so much more than that. And it is always 100%, no matter where you are in the world, it is always worth it to scrap those down because it's extremely easy. You can basically buy them for a very good price. You can even buy them for more than a scrapyard buys them for, and you're gonna still almost double your money. So if you get your hands, can you get your hands on one of those bigger transformers, or not one, but like multiple ones, you're gonna make a lot of money. Like that's a guarantee. Because this is very easy to do. You know, you're not gonna use a lot of time doing it, and you can buy them for a extremely good price because they are, as they are, not really worth a whole lot. Why is that a thing? Well, that is pretty easy to explain. The process to process this one and this one in like big industrial like factories that only recycle electric devices is the same. They throw them into a shredder or a hammer mill or something of that nature. They all get shredded up, and then the copper gets separated from the steel, and then that's it. And also from the trash, obviously, but then that's it. But that's completely unnecessary for transformers like this. It's completely unnecessary. The process is absolutely ludicrous to do them to transformers like this because you can do them like so much faster by hand. It's obviously way less hassle to just throw them into a hammer mill, but that's why the price for those is the same as for those. And the problem there is that most people would not even bother to check if it's worth it to do them. I don't know why, but they would rather just sell them to a scrapyard and say, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do that. It's too much work. It's not. It's not. I've been doing it for years. It's actually fun once you get into a rhythm of it, and it makes so much money if you get a lot of them. So like really this, like scrapping transformers with this amount of copper into it is the most lucrative thing you can do in scrapping. I don't know, probably most of you know the channel Project Chop FL. He makes videos where he does $1,000 a day, or like $1,000 an hour actually. I think he made one video, and I'm like, you can't make that amount of money with anything else scrap related. Transformers really are where the money is at that point. And you might be wondering to yourself, why are you telling me that? Wouldn't that be competition for you? Come on, people. Like, my videos are watched by like 500 people, and most of them are in the US. So, not even on my continent. So, I don't really worry about that. And even if, what do I care? Like, I can do something else if this gets too competitive. I'm gonna figure something out. I just wanted to share this with you because it's something that is important to me, and that's something that I'm passionate about. It's this kind of scrap. So let's now talk about my process of scrapping these down. So with this one, with the bigger ones, I've already talked about that. I put them on their side over like a little bit of an edge, so that they've got, I'm gonna show that to you real quick, so that the edge of the table or whatever you're using, don't use anything that's not sturdy. Use something that's made at least out of like, well, steel actually, that's the only thing you can really use. Put it on the edge here, and then just hit it with a hammer from the other side. Just like that. And this weld is gonna break at both ends, gonna fall off. Then you can put this part, the coil part, into some sort of holding device. Usually most people would use just like a vise, and you can then just beat the steel core out of it. Goes really quickly, and then you've got your number 2 copper. It's not gonna be very pure copper, obviously, but definitely number 2. So that's a good thing. With these ones, it's a little bit more difficult. Why is it a little bit more difficult? Well, because you obviously can't do all of that. You have to cut both ends and then push it through. Sounds easier, isn't, though. It takes way more time and it's a bit more annoying, but you're still gonna make it work somehow. It's not that bad, okay? And there can also be good transformers that you have to cut. This one only has 15% copper recovery, but that doesn't mean that all of them have. There are also ones that you have to cut that are more like this, with like almost 30% copper recovery. So, just take that into consideration. That is definitely something that you should look forward to, I guess, in a weird way. Well, anyways, what I buy these for is 70 cents a kilo, 70 euro cents a kilo, and they are approximately worth €2. So I almost triple my money on these transformers. Why is that a thing? I explained that before. I'm not going to go into that again because, well, I don't want to repeat myself over and over again. So that's what I can get off of those transformers. A kilo would give me approximately €1 and like 20 cents of profit. So one of those weighs, as I said, almost 20 kilos. So if you go for a value like that, there's really no way you can lose any money. If you really get a lot of those, there's no problem, absolutely no problem making 200, $300 an hour. There really isn't any problem doing that. There are better transformers. I have made some videos on this channel of transformers that are way better than this one copper recovery wise. Just a couple of videos back, I showed you a video where you can make $100 in 10 minutes scrapping transformers, and you can all pretty much calculate that up. And I also did that very slowly because I wanted to show it to you on camera. You can get that process that I showed to you in that video up to like the sky's the limit at that point. If you get a lot of that stuff, I don't think there's a problem making $2,000 in 1 hour. That is obviously delusional because you can't really get that amount of transformers, So we always have to take stuff with a grain of salt. You can make a lot of money here. The only problem is getting the material. There's not a terribly excessive amount of them out there. You just have to go around and take a look. Well, how do you get those things, you might ask yourself now? And I'm gonna answer that question for you. It's actually pretty easy. Get them from electricians. Just call some electricians. You can also go there in person, whatever you might want to do, and just ask them what they do with their transformers and stuff like that. And ask them if you can buy them. It's not that hard. Well, you're probably going to get rejected a lot of the times because they don't really care about making money from those transformers. Electricians make their money with doing electrical contracts, obviously, so they don't really care about their scrap. They really don't. They also are fine with just throwing it in the trash. They want it out, So that's actually a pretty good standpoint for you because you're going to give them money for something that they wouldn't usually get money for, or that they would just bring to the scrapyard and get less for it than you are going to pay them. So that's a pretty good point to start on. The problem being is obviously that most of you aren't going to want to talk to you. If you get someone to talk to you, it's almost guaranteed that you can buy their stuff because you can offer them so much more than anyone else can. Well, obviously not if they already have someone that privately buys them and processes them by hand. In that case, probably not, but that is very, very, very rare. You can also try to get them from scrapyards. I have done that before and you can make some good money off of that. It's obviously going to be way more expensive though. So it's really going to eat into your profit margin. You be the judge of whether or not that's worth it for you or not, but it is possible. As far as the tools go that you need, I did make a video about that very recently, so you can go ahead and check that out. But if you've got any more questions about what tools you might want to use and stuff like that, and whether or not I've got experience with something you want to try, write it in the comments below. I'd be very happy to answer that as always. And also if you just want to say hi, I can really very much appreciate that as well. I'm happy about every single comment that I get. And so, yeah, also don't forget to rate the video with either like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you might want to do. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because, yeah, that way we get more subscribers and community grows and stuff. And so, yeah, that's a pretty cool thing, I would say. And so, yeah, have a very nice week. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.